Hey, Salty Witches, it's Holly from Ritual here, and I've got Megan with me this morning,
Hello.
and we are testing out some new software for our podcast. We're trying to see what it's like to go live, and we are going to, we're just going to try it out, I guess, and we're going to react to Kat Von D today. Kat Von D, Megan, as you know, has left the cast,
Yes.
and like so many airport flights, he's announced her departure.
Because that's what we do when we
Mhm.
leave something.
I mean, yeah, Obvi, that's what we do. Don't be silly. Don't be silly.
Not me
Um,
doing the same thing.
oh, you know what? There we go. Mirroring my video. I knew something was off. All right. So let's go ahead and see what this is all about. Thank you everybody for like hanging in while I kind of learn the ins and outs of this.
Because I didn't. I ran away when I was 14. I came back and tried to work it out with my parents. And you have to understand, I had like a mohawk at the time. I shaved my head. I started getting tattooed at the time.
So they were worried.
This was a shock. And not to mention, like, my poor parents, they're not Americanized by any means at
Right.
this time. Like, they're coming from a completely different culture. They really believe like their child has been possessed by a demon, you
Yeah.
know? And which was not the case. I tried to explain that to my parents, but they,
All right, can we
it's a
stop
different
that there?
generation.
Yep.
It's not a foreign thing. There are plenty of Americans. I personally know people that were quote unquote exorcised of demons and had demons come out of them,
Yep.
and through very extreme Christianity. So it's not an American thing. I'm sorry, it's not a thing about a country. So, I mean, I can understand that where her parents were coming from because I was in that. But
so Kat Von D, like, I forget where her parents are from. They're from Mexico.
okay.
So, where Catholicism and Christianity is like so deeply embedded, but intertwined with different cultural practices there, it's not unusual. So I could see where culturally her parents would have been like, my child, but
Right. But I just
mean,
wanted to throw it out there, though, that it's not strictly
yeah,
Mexican, but I could see how being immigrants on top of their already existing beliefs and then being in a different country would have made them even more concerned for their child.
I mean, like, I think that's the key of it here. It's like, first of all, you're Kat Von D's parents, and I'm so sorry for that.
I'm sure they went through a lot.
Yeah, it's
and I think there could have been conversations that could have been had to help, but at the same time, I wouldn't change anything because it's really what brought me to where I am now anyway. So,
Right.
And then at one point, my parents were pretty desperate to like fix me, or fix whatever they thought was
Yeah.
wrong.
Or
And
help
so-
you. They probably thought that they were just trying to help you. If they
course,
thought that you were
of
possessed
course.
in some way or oppressed
Yeah, or
by
just
demonic
worried, I
force.
mean, like at the time you
Yeah.
have to understand there wasn't any like TV shows that normalized
so I don't like that it's like the go-to in evangelism, Christian evangelism, like the go-to is you're possessed. It's explore the mental health options. So I feel like definitely done a disservice that way. So she talks a bit about her childhood and the tattooing and artistry here, but I think it's important to know for the sake of this that Kat Von D does come from, like, her family comes from a pretty Christian background. And then she rebels against her family with tattooing and running away and getting involved in some of the other aspects of the craft. And then
that background is so controlling that it's no wonder that so many of us, when we come out of it, we do turn to witchcraft, because it is largely, most groups aren't even real groups, and we're like, do your own thing.
Yeah.
So if you don't fit into that narrow view of religion that presents to you, go Go get
Yeah.
your tattoos.
Like, it's, you know, it can be, you know, like she's lucky that she had, I'm just gonna skip ahead a little bit in
Yeah.
this. She's
Yeah,
lucky
it's a
that
long
she,
interview.
I'm basically following the
I failed all of my.
oh, sorry everybody. I refuse to pay for no ads.
Listen, next
on-
time, like, let's log in under
All
my
different
account. 'Cause I have
drop-off
no ads.
locations where you can go to a church and you can drop off your box and then they will take it and then they will ship
can
it and
we talk about for just a second
Mhm.
the organization that she is promoting, Samaritan's Purse? Okay, so
Oh, you know about them? 'Cause I have no idea.
Oh yeah. Okay. So this was started by one of the members of the Graham family, one of Billy Graham's
Mhm.
sons, I believe. And it just the way it's a missionary organization, and the way these things work is a continuation of colonialism. And so they go in and they get the kids. So Samaritan's Purse, their big thing every year is you put together these shoe boxes, and the last few years they've provided shoebox size boxes. And so you gather all these different supplies from regular supplies, because think of, you're going into they're being distributed into very poor areas around the world. So kids don't have toothbrushes, they don't have school supplies, they don't have some of the basic things like soap, right? So you're supposed to get stuff like that.
So on face value, a really nice organization,
right?
Like care packages for people that could really use them, but
they're going in and roping these kids into, again, this very narrow religious view of things. And
goddamn Trojan horse.
It is. And evangelical organizations always go for the kids because they're so impressionable. And if you can pull them in, then you've got this lifelong member that can then spread your message. And again, it's a very narrow message, and it is not accepting of everybody. It is not accepting of the LGBTQ community. It is not accepting of other religions. It's not even accepting of other forms of Christianity. So, Holly, when you call Kat Von D's family, who's from a Catholic family, evangelical Christians, other evangelical Christians would be like, no, Catholics are not Christians. So it's like, well, my church and my organization is the correct one. So anyway, I have a huge problem with a lot of these mission organizations. And so, no, don't go to Samaritan's Purse and give them your money. That's what I'm saying. Anyway.
It's just like, I just don't understand why an organization cannot stand on the merits of just doing something nice, right? Like,
exactly.
It's okay to be like community outreach and like maybe a little shameless self-promotion while you do it. Like,
sure.
Fine, you know, like, hey, Samaritan's Purse, we do this, blah, blah, blah. But like, you know, we are religious backed, but really we're just trying to be nice. And, you know, like, you do you. If you want to learn more, like, maybe come to us, but like, don't like, I don't know, like.
Yeah, it's
like we're
doing the idea. It's the Trojan horse. That's what it is. It's not just nice for being nice. And a lot of
That's really sad.
Christians have this scary thought process of, how can you be nice and good to other people without God and the fear of hell? And it's like, if the fear of hell is the only thing making you do nice things and be a good person, then you're not actually a good person, and you probably need therapy.
So speaking of, speaking of sermons and preaching, we just had one at the shop on Sunday, and Linda was talking about, you know, there's only 2 places. I forget if it was during because we live stream them. I forget if it was during the live stream portion, but Linda's like, you can only come from 2 places, from fear or love. And they're very opposite of each other.
Yes.
And if you're delivering school supplies to kids in need to deliver a message of fear, that's not love. That's something totally different and gross.
100% agreed. It's one of the reasons I had to leave that religion. And I'm sure there are Christians out there that are much nicer and much less extreme in their thinking, but that's not the background I came from. And I can't deal with that anymore. I think it's horrible.
actually go throughout the year, and they give these box of supplies of gifts to children throughout the year. More than 209 million gift-filled shoeboxes to children in more than 170 countries and territories, and that is since 1993. And this year they are celebrating 30 years of ministry. So go to SamaritansPurse.org/OCC.
There's nothing
National
wrong with like
Collection
delivering
Week is
supplies when
coming
they're
up
bragging
November
about it,
13th
but
through
like,
Yeah.
20th. So
And
again,
they give like
you
little,
can drop off
depending on
those
the age,
shoeboxes, or
they
you
give them
can
out by
make it online.
age. So the little kids
Mhm.
might get like a little toy or something, you know, and sometimes you could throw in candy that would travel well and not melt in extreme heat, you know. And so it's really like the contents are amazing.
Yeah.
And these kids deserve everything that they
But
receive.
they're also
getting this
getting a fuck your culture. Here's like a pamphlet about like here's
Yes.
a tract about how you're going to hell. Like
Yes,
just let them have toys and be happy. Like,
yes. Like, can we just
By
give them
going
a
to
bar of soap?
SamaritansPurse.org/OCC, SamaritansPurse.org/OCC.
So we're clearly not sponsored by
So
Samaritan's Purse here.
you, like you said, you jumped to bigger and bigger ponds, got closer to LA as a tattoo artist. At this point, you're like late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how old were you when LA Inc. started?
So I first got on a show called Miami Inc. and
Right.
I was 20,
oh my god,
barely 21 or so.
a million years
And
ago.
I was
Yeah.
at this point a full-blown alcoholic. I was drinking all the time. I was I got introduced to drugs at that point, but I was functioning. So like somehow I think that's when I just started looking into that type of literature, and then I part where I'm like, oh, I feel like you're missing the God part, because like, you know, they won't like have like they don't ever talk about your higher power can be this cactus in the corner, you know.
Yeah.
It can be Ozzy Osbourne or something, you know.
Yeah.
It's not, whereas like for me, I feel like
Good. Your higher power should be able to be anything. Like if
Yes.
you're truly like that is, you know, a lot of people like shit all over AA. And if it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't, it doesn't. No harm, no foul, right? But the fact that they are so open about what your higher power is makes it such an accessible system for people who it might work for, as opposed to must believe in Jesus to work this system.
And for people who have religious trauma. And it's only in the last couple of years that we've started to realize that religious trauma is real. It's not just, oh, some priest abused me. It's a whole system that it can be traumatic, the way that it can control every aspect of your life, from the way you dress to can you get a tattoo or not, you know, to how you speak, to who you can have friendships with, to who you can date, to who you can marry, how you can date. It's very traumatizing for a lot of people. And so, yeah, let's let people find the higher power that works for them. And for those people that are atheists and don't ever experience anything spiritual like that in that vein, like that should be okay too.
Well, I mean, their higher power is the laws of physics. Like it can be,
right,
you know, like it's just, or a belief in themselves. Like that's kind of what's amazing about that. But I mean, and if you're missing the God part for you, and like she said in the interview, she's like, oh, you're kind of missing the God part for higher power. It's like, well, go out and get it, girl. Like
yes,
nobody's stopping you. Like
yes, like if that's who
I've been sober for a long time, but I don't feel like I was free from all it until I found God. You know, and I feel like that would be so cool if, I mean, whatever, I'm not going to really diss on the AA program because it helps a lot of people, but so yeah, I think that's when I just started looking into that type of literature, and then I started learning about transcendental meditation, and I was like, oh, like it was always these very like short-lived band-aids on a sinking ship, you know. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah,
it's like oh, this feels really good, and I'm like so at peace, and I've like been able to like you know, I'd have anxiety at the airport, and I'd go into the bathroom and like say my mantra, and then and I'll be fine. It's like, but it was these crutches, you know.
Right.
So now I'm gonna fast forward to like,
so in my view, meditation is not supposed to be a permanent state of mind. It is that thing that you do to calm down. It is that thing that you do to have whatever spiritual moment you need, whether it's an hour-long meditation, whether it's a 5-second meditation. So if she's looking to that to be some kind of like surgical fix, no, of course it's not going to work. It's not what it's supposed to be.
No, not at all. And it's she's and to further that, like, oh, spiritual crutches, and it's like one thing from the next that makes you feel good. Like your spirituality evolves. Who knows, like for her, for this born again phase, I mean, more power to her for finding it, honestly. Like, yay, I'm glad that this is what is making her feel good right now. But at some point in the future, she might decide that that's not for her either. Like, it's just.
And also dissing on crutches. Like, so we made crutches because they're helpful.
Crutches are tools.
So, like, are you going to tell the person who broke their leg, stop using that crutch? Or it's someone with a congenital issue? Like, no, you don't need that crutch. Just stop.
And I think it's a little disingenuous too to call like a spiritual exploration, like as you're exploring different modalities, to call those different modalities crutches. Like that's, like you're just trying, like it's okay to try on stuff and see how it feels. And then if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. No harm, no foul. But again, it's really disingenuous to call spiritual and cultural practices crutches. Like it's a little disrespectful in my book. There's other ways to have communicated it. Like I tried some stuff, it never really felt right. And, I mean, like that's valid. Like I feel, like if what we do, if what other people do doesn't work for her, then that's valid. Like it doesn't have to work for her. And I'm genuinely happy for her that she seems to have found something that works for her, but spiritually speaking. But I don't know. Like there's a line between discussing what works for you and what didn't work for you, and then being disrespectful to those practices in the process.
Yes.
The first post that I ever made about talking about like throwing away my occult books.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that everybody kind of honed in, my fans included, on the witchcraft books, because there was a lot more of those than there was the others. But I actually threw away all my meditation books, all my books on yoga, all my like it wasn't just the stuff that people considered spooky, which I don't think some of it is, but and I think that it's easier to look at like a story, like what I wrote.
It is so stupid to me that yoga is considered like, because yoga is such a multi-layered practice, but I can almost guarantee you, I did not see the post with the books. I haven't looked at it, mostly because like a treasure trove of books like that just gets thrown away. Like that makes me so angry when books get thrown away. Like, donate them, bitch. Like figure it out.
This is
take them to a Savers. Like,
but they
Savers.
can't. She can't, because this is what high control groups do. Is they control the information that you're getting, and if they're telling you this is bad and incorrect information, then it must be evil, and no one else should have this information either. And it's a type of brainwashing.
So, like they're caused by through weight. Like they weigh your shit in books weigh so much. Like
I know, but it's wild. It is wild. So you guys, for anyone listening that doesn't understand high control group religion, there is a podcast that I highly recommend. It's called From Cults to Consciousness, and start digging into that. Shalise Ansola she's a former Mormon, and she hosts people that come out of a wide variety of backgrounds, from very culty, like you look at it, you're like, oh my God, that's a cult, to just mainstream, some of the mainstream religions like Mormonism, like some of the conservative Christian groups. And this is what I'm seeing in Kat Von D right now. She's gotten herself into one of these types of groups and belief systems, and so all logic goes out the window, because you're being controlled so highly by the leadership of this group, and you don't even know it. You don't even know it when you're in it. You know that you've found something that makes you feel good, so you're willing to listen to every single thing that they tell you, whether it makes sense or not. Like throughout your books, I went through a thing one summer after an intense Christian summer camp experience. I came home, and because I'm old, I had cassette tapes, and I destroyed them. I sat there in my bed in my bedroom, pulling the tape out so that I couldn't even, it wasn't even to throw them out, it was destroy them. And looking back, I'm like, what kind of ridiculousness was this? But from the outside looking in, it looks ridiculous. But when you're inside that, the most ridiculous ideas start to make sense. Like, throw out your books. Yeah. Don't give them to anyone else. Throw them out. And
I mean, and it's
then
just, like not being able, like, so like yoga books, most yoga books will go into some of the other, like some books will dive deep into some of the Vedic practices, but most are very surface. And they're going to talk about like mindfulness, not so much like, and maybe like an easy meditative practice or yoga poses that you can do. Like, so most of them are about fitness because yoga has been so westernized out here. Like it's so far removed from the original intention. Like,
but somebody who believes word for word, literally a book that was written 2000, not even 2000 years ago, it was written about 1600 years ago, and takes that as literal truth, then they're going to look at the origins of yoga and be like, well, that's still what it is.
Yeah, but I mean, like, so, but like Jesus preached mindfulness too. Like when you read a lot of his stuff, he's just like peace, love, and mindfulness. Like,
yes,
like
yes, but people
live
can't
each day
see
and
that.
Love your brothers, and like, it's like, so there's lessons that you can take from those books to apply.
Absolutely, but they can't see it. And so what I'm saying is a woman so deep into this, she can't see it anymore either.
I mean, also there's no respect for the path that brought her here, right? Like,
right.
You know, say what, like, like, okay, maybe she doesn't believe what those books say anymore, but like that's the path that brought her here, and who's to say it's not going to bring others? Like you cannot, like, a spiritual journey, like, I don't know, just like the idea of destroying books. I'm sorry.
And mind you, I prayed a lot about that post prior to doing it. Like I spent time on writing that caption because I knew the intentions behind it were to like start being able to talk about where I'm at in life, and
that was what, 2020?
Yeah.
Or so?
I think so. Yeah. And it was such an, so I posted this post on Instagram where I just took a picture of a good chunk of these books that I took from my library. I have a library of like 300 to 500 books. And so this was a very small amount of books out of that collection that I just wanted to get rid of. Like I don't want to say that they were haunting me, but it's like, I already knew they were there. I have my son who's growing up and is becoming curious. And it's like, there were some art books I threw away too that weren't in that picture that were like, I don't know if I want my kid to look at that, like,
you don't throw them away.
But to me, it was like I came to this really awesome realization.
Like I threw away my tapes
that night that I decided to post that, was that like I don't want these crutches in my life anymore. And that's what I really saw them as. Is like, okay, like I just want Jesus, and it's a very narrow road, right? Like I feel like all these other, like these breathing techniques
and that is the problem. It's a narrow
or like
road,
spell work,
that's what the Bible
or
says.
whatever. Like
there's a verse about it being nature the narrow way.
Really?
Yeah, I wish I could remember it verbatim, but it's the way to heaven is narrow, and the way to hell is wide, or something like that. So
my way or the highway.
Pretty much, honestly.
Worship, all these things, it's like they're just crutches. They're not really like my answer. And so for me, I would rather eliminate any distractions, and this is just for what works for me, so that was like, it was a symbolic gesture, I guess, in a way, but it was my first like proclaiming of where I stand with certain things. And it was crazy to watch the reaction, because in the comments it was like I feel like you could see literal demons hissing at each other. And
okay.
Well, that's a superpower.
Well, it is. And
I mean, like, it's a good way to describe any comment section on the
it
internet,
really
to be
is.
fair.
Oh,
Like, I mean, the internet is a hideous place,
it
and it
is.
is famous for its hissing demons, but
It is.
And it
It
was coming from both
is.
sides, you know, from people that were like, "Oh, I don't think Aleister Crowley's evil," or "Hey, like, why would you throw this away? You should give them to people. Like, that's so wasteful," or whatever. Or
controversial is not the same thing as evil. Just gonna
Correct.
throw that out
Correct.
there.
Oh, and can we go back to, and I didn't want my kids seeing this thing. So again, it comes back to one of the things that culty groups do is information control. Folks, you
Mhm.
should look up the BITE model. It's things that they control. One, the I stands for information, and especially with the kids. So
I'll Google that right now.
rather than opening up a discussion with your child about what's appropriate for kids to do, say whatever, it's I'm just not going to
So
let them have at it, you know. And also again, parenting to me is I don't have to get rid of all the things that are not child friendly. It's maybe keep them out of my kids' reach when they're a toddler. And then as they get older, if they're like, oh, what's that book? We say something like, oh, that's for adults. We'll talk about it when you're older. Or, oh, let's look at it and discuss it together, as opposed to, oh, no, you don't look at that. And out of the fear, because it's a very fear-based belief system she seems to have adopted here.
That's so shitty. So I just posted it in the chat, but for those that don't
Okay.
know, BITE stands for behavior, information, thought, and emotional control.
Yes.
So it's just
And that book throwing out also goes into, it's a combination of the behavior and the emotion, behavior and information
Mhm.
and thought, really.
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with what I see in these pictures. And then there would be the Christians that are like attacking and kind of saying equally as evil things too, you know, that weren't helping anybody. And
Good for her for
and that
acknowledging
night,
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you,
All right.
Kat.
Props where
I
they're
feel
due.
like two people came to my house. So at the time we lived in LA and we had a gated house. And I was upstairs with my son and the doorbell rang and we had like a security system. And my husband looks and it was, he screenshotted it and it was just this possessed person, you know, who just was
How
like,
do you know?
hi, you know, I don't want to freak you out, but I just want to know if I could please have those books, you know, like I really need those books. I need those books. And it was just like,
Wow.
and you could see the
So first of all, doesn't she live in LA? Like she lives in California. Like
I'm not sure where she lives at this point, but it sounds like they were in a different house then. So
hang on, let's review it. Let's rewind it like 2 seconds.
wasteful or whatever, or there's nothing wrong with what I see in
It is wasteful, Kat.
Yeah,
They're not wrong about that. It's wasteful.
yeah.
these pictures. And then there would be the Christians that are like attacking and kind of saying equally as evil things too, you know, that weren't helping anybody. And that night, I feel like two people came to my house. So at the time we lived in LA and we had a gated house.
LA.
And I was upstairs with my son and the doorbell rang and we had like a security system. And my husband looks and it was, he screenshotted it and it was just this possessed person, you know, who just was like, hi,
So LA right now is not exactly known for its mental health. So,
I mean, it's anywhere, but yeah, I can see where there it would be
But,
a
like-
bigger crisis than maybe some other places.
yeah, but I mean, you know, if you've got somebody that doesn't have, so here's the thing. Here's like this is a good, like, first of all, this person shouldn't go to her house unsolicited. Like that's a
No,
big
absolutely
no-no.
not. That's awful. Don't do that to
But-
people.
But I mean, this is like you've got a person who's seeking a spiritual path who, like, if you are driven to the point, like, there's two reasons to go to Kat Von D's house for these books. You are desperate for information and you lack the resources to be able to have that
Yes.
information. Like, you can't afford books, and you know,
Because books
don't
are
have means.
expensive.
Yep, and you don't have means to get a library card, and most libraries aren't going to be carrying books that, you know, indulge in the craft anyway. Or you've got like a mental health problem. Like that's some stalker behavior. You're either desperate or unhealthy.
And probably a combination of both.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably unhealthy if they're
Mm-hmm.
if you're showing up at some celebrity's house that
Mm-hmm.
they don't know you, why would they answer the door?
Yeah.
So you're probably a little unhinged in some way and need some help.
Mm-hmm.
And and they probably are desperate, because if you are in
Mm-hmm.
that kind of a state, then you're going to be looking for answers. And maybe one of those books has your answer,
Yeah.
beyond what a doctor can help you with.
I mean, like, that's like the charitable thing to do would have been to have donated those books to a charity, or like put them out on the street with a free sign.
Yeah.
I understand, like, why you would, like, why, if you're in a bite model, why if you're in a high control religion, you'd want to throw them away. But, like, you don't know if they could have helped that person. You don't know, like, you don't know. And, like, that's,
And to jump to their demon possessed, this is just something that I can't stand, that idea still persists. That if you are not in my religion and you're behaving in a way that I don't like, you must be demon possessed.
I mean, that's, like,
It's
the demons are figurative. Like, at that point, like, you don't, not to discount somebody's experience or their personal belief, or but, like, you cannot put on, like, you can't, like, Megan, if you came to me and you told me that, like, oh, I had an entity, or I had something, like, I had a demon, or like something negative or whatever, I cannot discount that, because that is your lived experience.
Yeah.
And, we could do some spiritual stuff to help you, recommend some mental health counseling at the same time. Like, it's a holistic approach that needs to be had. But that's you coming to somebody and telling them your experience, right?
Yes.
It isn't like you come to me. It's not like if you showed up on this podcast today and you were like bedhead, no makeup, really terrible mood. And,
I mean, we got the no makeup going, but
maybe a little unmedicated. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But, like if you
How
were,
did
like,
you know?
if you showed up unhinged and I was like, fucking demons. Like,
right.
That's me putting a weight on you. Like, that's me passing a judgment. That's, it's, you can't really discount somebody's lived experience, but you can also refrain from assuming that there's some sort of spiritual warfare happening.
I mean, and anybody that's listened to our podcast knows, like, I do not disbelieve any of the spirits. I am a psychic, and I have met a lot of different kinds of spirits, and we did a whole episode on this. So can someone be demon possessed? I do believe they can be, but you don't just go around assuming that if you have a problem with someone, that's the problem. And even as someone who can actually see these things, I don't just walk up to a person and think that I didn't have a pleasant interaction with and think, oh, they're demon possessed. That's why it was an unpleasant interaction. Like, that's not how you do things.
I feel sorry that some rando showed up at our house, like, demanding books, but, like, because that's not cool. But, like,
it's not. It sounds like a very unpleasant experience. I wouldn't want that happening either.
But at the same time, I'm not going to be like, obviously demons.
Right.
It's like, right. Like, I'm not saying it's demons, but
it's like, I'm just saying, like, they are clearly unaware of how things should work in a polite society, is what I would say. And why they're unaware, I don't know. I'm not jumping to demons.
Yeah.
I don't want to freak you out, but I just want to know if I could please have those books. Like, I really need those books. I need those books. And it was just like, and you could see the darkness in this eye, and like, like, why I think, when I say things,
your ring camera is not great.
I think that people
especially because it sounds like it was at night,
over spiritualized.
No, like, I just think a lot of people, especially in the Christian community, like, call everything demonic, and I don't think everything is demonic. Like, but in this case, I was like, I think this is a definition of a demon. Like, this person is possessed and is no longer in control of what they would normally do, because they're obsessed either with fame or with the desire to bring certain evils into your life, I think that's crazy. You know, my husband ushered him away. Then the second person came and they tried to break into our trash cans.
Wow.
Also wrong.
Which I
Don't do
already
that, people.
Huh?
To get the books.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So first of all, they're breaking into your trash can, Kat, because then they can go on eBay and say, I got Kat Von D's witch books that she just threw out, because this
Yes.
is like a phenomenon right now.
Yes.
And like maybe you broke. maybe you have expensive tastes. And you know what would fetch a pretty penny?
One
The
of Kat Von
witchcraft
D's
books Kat Von D just threw out. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
if I was broke enough and lived down the street from Kat Von D, I'd probably break into her trash cans too and sell a bunch of shit. Because this bitch is a baroque.
I mean, not the worst idea. So,
I've got Kat Von D's banana peel, everyone. Like,
right?
how do you know it's Kat Von D's? Just trust me, it is. Like,
It's like, sorry, your gates and your gated community didn't work, Kat. But like, people don't do that. It's horrible. Just because they're a celebrity doesn't mean you have the right to do that. But damn, it doesn't mean that they're demon possessed.
yeah, I mean, like, it's creepy. Like, you know, going through trash is like definitely a little icky on it. Like, it's you know, in a lot of ways, but like, you know, like they're not going through your trash can because they're demon possessed.
No.
Because they think they can get some dollar bills for your books. Like that. Yeah. While they're at it, they're probably gonna grab like your coffee grinds and like,
right. At which point we're talking about a mental disorder that is probably treatable with some therapy and some medication, as opposed to demon
not
possessed.
even disorder, like not even mental disorder, but like Kat Von D's got some pretty rabid fans out there, and they will pay a lot of money for something that was Kat Von D's. Like that's like the fan base. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. The fan base is a little weird. Like I've met some avid Kat Von D fans.
Okay.
And it's interesting. They're interesting people.
All right, but this an interesting.
We're all readily available online anyway.
Demons. Anyway, although demons can be interesting, that's not what we're talking about here.
Exactly.
Anyway, I mean, I did have like first editions of stuff, but it's like, what is it?
I know. The book lover in me is slowly dying. Holly's death is vocal, and mine was just this silent internal withering.
All right, I'm looking up the book post because now I
like what did she have first editions of? She probably had. I mean, because the woman's got money, so she probably had some really interesting first editions. I wouldn't be surprised if she had like some old Aleister Crowley or something in there. He is a controversial figure because at best he was very odd. At worst, he did some awful things, but that doesn't mean that we need to throw out everything he ever wrote. What did she have? All right,
hold on. I'm putting it up on the screen. Oh my god, Megan, this is terrible.
Oh,
all right, let's see. Let me see. All right, so
you guys, I'm too poor for first editions, but I'm not desperate enough to go searching through someone's trash to find them. I'll just die inside at the thought that that's what they did with them because of some misguided religious beliefs.
Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can. All right, show on stream. All right.
Okay,
so
I don't have my glasses
has,
on. You might need to read some of this for me.
Yeah, I will.
Oh, Golden Tarot.
Yep, The Witch's Way by Janet and Stuart Farrar. I'm actually, let me see if I can. Can you see? Is it still showing the tab?
It's still showing it. I just, like I said, I don't have my glasses on, and I'm waiting on my new glasses, so I don't know if I'd be able to read them anyway.
Okay, I'm just Alchemy and Mysticism, like Be Here Now, The Cosmic Serpent, it just looks like some of these books are old.
Yeah. I'm wondering if that Treasury of Witchcraft, that looks like an older book. I wonder if that's like one of the
from the 1960s.
And then she's
Natural
got something
Magic.
you can't read the spine.
I mean, these are like, I get it. Like,
yeah,
you're not into it anymore. That's fine. But like these books Oh my god.
I
Like, I'm
know.
trying not to scream.
I know. It's awful. As someone who's not involved in that,
Mhm.
it's awful to see someone just get rid of that stuff.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Cat, what have you done?
Okay. All right. All right. It's okay. It's all right.
I mean, life will go on, but damn woman.
In you
Mhm.
that's like so desperate for, like,
Yeah.
again, trying to find these answers in the wrong place is a literal trash can,
Yeah.
and it kind of was like a very like
Now
sobering
I hope
moment for
that
me,
trash
because I was like,
digger
man,
was,
like
like,
this,
successful in
I don't
rescuing
want to
those
have
books,
anything to
like,
do
for
with that,
fucking real,
Right.
man.
anymore.
Do you think you'd be happier as a boy?
Getting some really shitty eggs.
Let me tell y'all about Naturally It's Clean. You're always asking me for the link to the cleaning products that I talk about. So in 2020, when you posted that, you said that you saw those as crutches and all you wanted was Jesus. So at that point, you were a Christian.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so when did that happen?
Probably like a year before that.
A year before that. So let's talk about that a little
Yeah.
bit. How did you become a Christian out of the world of just kind of spiritualism?
So funny funny enough. I kind of blame my husband, or give him the credit. He
She should
It was
blame him.
during like right before, right when the lockdowns happened. I came downstairs and he just said, "Hey, babe, I think we got it wrong. I think we got a lot of things wrong."
Wow.
And I was like, "No, no," and I was never like a politically charged person. I would say like ignorant political things, just out of like, because I don't watch TV. I don't like really know. I mean, I would see
I think that's true.
like whatever my friends would post or things like that, but I was never like, I couldn't tell you who's in office or anything like that, at the time. And then so my husband was like, "Hey, like I want to show you some stuff," and like it would be some articles and some videos and stuff.
If you don't know who's in office at the time, like, that's like, I could maybe see like the comptroller for your town, like, not knowing, but
Right.
like, larger political office, like, that's I am a big fan of turning off the TV, not reading the news, not absorbing that negativity and
Yeah.
that programming, that control into your life, because
Yeah.
politics is a whole other system of fight model. Like,
Yeah.
that's,
Oh,
like,
100%. Yeah. A lot of different groups can fit into that.
but it would behoove you to at least kind of have a broad swipe of like, who's in office, who's the
Yes.
president today, like, what's going on.
Yeah. Like, do I know everybody that
Mhm.
is in office that I'm connected to through where I live?
Mm-mm.
No. But I'm generally aware. And do I watch TV? No, we don't. We haven't had TV. I cut the cable before cutting the cable was cool because I was fucking poor.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
but that doesn't mean I don't get the news. It doesn't mean I don't see who's being elected. So,
Mhm.
yeah, that level of unawareness
mhm.
is kind of concerning. And this is why we should be careful which celebrities we look up to, as far as how should I live my life. There's a good example. Is it a good example?
Stuff, and I was like, oh man, like I really got to start rethinking a lot of things that I thought were true,
Yeah.
and that was kind of the first step into questioning everything I had been doing.
Yeah.
um
Was it
I think
mostly,
that's
we don't have to go into
okay.
the details on this.
Yeah, periodically question your beliefs. See, do they still fit? That's fine. But
I mean, not even period. You should question every day. Like, I'm a
Yeah.
believer that you should question every day. I mean, if you want to check in once a month or once a year, like, that's but like,
yeah,
like, my brain is a fiery hellscape. I maybe don't recommend doing it all day, every day, but like,
no, but still, that
Mhm.
questioning and figuring out, do these beliefs still
Mhm.
fit me, is fine. Please do that. That's healthy.
yeah. And like, that inquiry is fine, but like, to be willfully, I'm gonna say, like, in the case of, in this case, it sounds like she's been willfully ignorant for a while, and then like
Yes.
goes ahead and checks in with such a radical change because her husband says, "Oh, like, y-
Yeah.
like that's
Yeah. Like, think for
But
yourself,
like the
please.
stuff that he was showing you, did it, because you said it was around the lockdowns.
Yeah.
Was it mostly regarding that kind of thing, or was it more theological in nature, the things that he was talking about?
No, it was like revolving more around like political things, and you have to understand at that time like BLM was going hard and in LA, and I was in the middle of it. Like I lived 3 doors down from the mayor of LA, so
Yeah.
we had Antifa like on our front yard.
Yeah.
After they threatened to like do the Molotov cocktails and stuff like
Right.
that, and like so we were just like seeing things in real time, and they were much worse in real life than I think what people even put on TV. And
Yeah.
so I was like, man, maybe like
I could see how, like, if you've got a huge protest on your front lawn, I could see how that would be traumatic. But
Yeah.
like, I don't know. Like that's why you would stay informed, like to get the other side of the story.
Yes.
To see, like,
Why are these
like,
people so angry? Don't just be like, oh, angry mob, therefore must
Mhm.
be all bad. Like, why are these people so angry?
Yeah, I mean, like it's this kind of dichotomy that, like, and it doesn't serve either side. There's nuance to everything.
Yes.
Should protesters have been threatening to throw Molotov cocktails, that could have, like, it really could have like burned down a house, and like, it could have resulted in destruction of property, and that wouldn't have been cool. But like also, why are they mad enough to do this is, that warrants, you're right, that warrants being explored, like being interested in the social issues that especially are affecting your town and where you live directly. Like, you should be interested.
Yes.
so I started just kind of like reevaluating, kind of going down the list of what I'm doing with my life and like what my perspectives are. And then it got to the part of like my spirituality. And that's where I started really rethinking a lot of things. And so I think a friend had sent me a sermon from Pastor Jack Hibbs, and I loved it. Like it really spoke to me, and like it answered a lot of questions.
So I'm actually studying how to write. Like, I came up with, I created a SOC email account because I
Okay.
don't want them knowing that it's me signing up for their newsletters and their how-tos. But I'm studying how to write sermons
Oh, okay.
the way that these very effective pastors are. Like, there's a lot of free classes. Like, so the good news is because they want the word of, this very specific, very very adulterated word of Christ, they want it spread. So the good news is there's a lot of classes to teach you how to do that.
Yeah.
And then, me being the tricky little witch that I am, I'm going to apply that to paganism.
There you go. There you
Like,
go.
yeah.
Well, and this is one of the things that, because Christianity has been the major religion for Western culture, which you and I are very much a part of, that's who gets all of these speaking training classes and all of the communications classes. It's a huge part of that training, whether you, and a lot of these pastors are not formally trained, but they get that information one way or another. And it is missing from some of the other religions. We don't always have great spokespeople.
Not
And
for long.
so I think that is very smart, because we need good spokespeople to help others understand what we actually are about, so that we can combat some of the, well, on one hand, so we can combat some of the misconceptions, and on the other hand, for people that are just genuinely interested in, like, what do you do? What is up with your belief system?
So that's what we're going to be implementing at so shameless self-promotion. That's what we're going to be implementing at Ritual. So we've been doing a monthly Sunday service, and I think it's time to take it bi-weekly. And so right now we have Reverend and Reiki master teacher and light worker Linda Burgess does it for us, but like,
she's amazing.
She is amazing, but I have to start taking some responsibility for my business and for my community that way. So I'm teaching myself how to write effective and interesting and engaging sermons.
I love this. I love this.
Right?
It's amazing.
Yep, I'm also researching how to incorporate as a church right now, so that's fun.
Cool.
That's part of a broader plan, but yeah, that's going to be happening sooner rather than later. So we will be live streaming those and all that good stuff. But you know, like there are some great sermons out there though. Like I've listened to a lot of them, and you know, in the like if you take them for surface value and ignore the part where they try to convert you, like
Yes.
there's some like they're really they're very compelling and engaging and like broadly applicable things. Like it's, you know, it's
Yeah, and there are people that are just genuinely like pastors that are just genuinely wanting people to treat each other well.
yeah.
And if they're coming from that perspective, then there are some great things you can learn from some of these people.
I you know, I question whether or not a lot of them really come from that perspective though, because
That's why I said some of them.
That's got to be rare because like the goal is to convert you to their way of belief, not to say something to you that speaks to you spiritually, and then let you discern whether or not that is for you anymore. It's
well, when you're afraid of going to hell and you care for your family and your friends, you don't want them to go to hell either. So you want to convert them to your group. So on the surface, that's what's there. But you know, then we can get into how that gets twisted and turned. And it's if your job is reliant, if your salary is reliant on having butts in chairs or views on screens, then you need to convert people or you're not going to get that.
No, I mean, like, I don't think that's true. And that's the approach that I plan on taking. I don't think I need to convert anybody to
no, and I think because for you it's going to be a part of it. It's not going to be my only income is reliant on this group of people listening to my sermons.
So what if like, even if your only income is reliant on people listening to your sermons, there's still a way to be engaging without being like convert. Like, you know, there's just, you know, say something compelling to people. That's you know,
so what you're saying is it's my religious trauma showing.
That I had. And so then I started that my son at the time was like still a baby, so I wasn't going to church, but we would watch like sermons every Sunday. And so that was kind of like I just desired more and more and more. And so I just started studying the Bible. And it was like
I think everybody reads the Bible.
It's so cool to be able to do it as an adult, you know? I think like I was very lucky that I had parents that were Christian and enforced certain things at a time when I couldn't understand things, even though it wasn't as effective. Like I do credit my dad for everything because I remember finding myself in very dark moments and like intuitively I was praying.
Yeah.
You know, and it wasn't because my dad made me. Like it was because because he'd been waiting. That's all. You know.
Okay. So how is praying to the Christian God any less of a crutch than going into the airport bathroom and doing a quick meditation?
Like prayer is a form of meditation. Like that's like, you know, it's I just, and you know, like it's I don't know. I to not introduce your child to the fact that the world is somewhat spiritual and that people have spiritual beliefs, and to say that they're not allowed to explore them, like that's so weird. So like you know, and to pass that down to your child, of course that's something that you should be able to do. And you know, if her father indeed didn't force her to do things like pray or explore, amazing. And every culture has morality tales right? So, Bible stories are, some of them, especially the ones for children, are usually just morality tales. Fine, fine, fine. But um I don't know. It's something about this. I can't really put my finger on it. Something about this isn't sitting right.
It's the
Like when you can
indoctrination, and it's that she was probably forced to do and learn about her family's religion, which is very different than, hey child, this is my religion. Now, to a certain extent, with a very young child, if both parents are going to church, well, yeah, you got to bring them because someone's got to watch the kid, right?
Yeah.
But
really...
there are levels of expectation about how much a child should absorb and take part in the religion, and to me, that's a totally different thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think we discussed it on one of these episodes that, my kid has participated in some rituals with me, but it has always been entirely up to her. And it is always made clear that she gets to choose her spiritual beliefs and whether or not she even has spiritual beliefs. And my love for her is not dependent on that. And I will not be disappointed if she goes down a path of atheism, if she goes down a different spiritual path than me. Whereas there's this whole idea that if you, in groups like Catholicism, and this is where the guilt comes from, that lasts through a lot of people's lives, is that if you don't follow in your parents' footsteps with it, then A, you're going to hell, and B, you're disappointing your parents, and they're afraid for you. They're genuinely afraid that you're going to hell if you don't follow. Yeah. And that's a lot of pressure to put on a kid.
I mean, I don't like you're right. Like if you are a parent and you're attending church and stuff, you kind of have to bring your kid with you. So I'm lucky enough that my mom, Irish Catholic, we went to the church we attended was Our Lady of the Cape, and right. So my mom didn't baptize us. She wanted us to be able to choose. And I remember it was a huge sticking point between my mom and my grandma. And my grandma, the Catholicism, definitely so I didn't escape Catholic guilt as a family system. Yeah.
But good for your mom for not forcing that on you.
Well, I mean, it wasn't so that wasn't forced on me, but I did have to attend church services when my mom wanted to go. And we didn't go all the time. But what was instilled in me was that, this is a system of spirituality. You need to be respectful when you get here, even if it's not for you. That's,
and that's fine. That's fine. Mm-hmm. I'm all for that as well.
And honestly, so I'll give credit where it's due. I think the Roman Catholic, I think the being in the Catholic Church and witnessing the formality and the rituals and stuff got me really curious as to the human, even as a little kid, I was always why do people do the shit they do? That's, so credit where it's due. That's really what set me on my path of exploration was, oh my God, I remember I got kicked out once. So the priest was always had a children's time during the thing. So all the kids would come up to the altar area, and they come up to the pulpit, I guess would be it was this raised platform.
That would be the altar area.
Yeah. So Our Lady of the Cape was very back in the day, it was really informal. It did have the little altar where the Jesus were made, but where the priest prepared lunch, the snack time.
Not a death cult, eating the body and drinking the blood of Jesus.
No, definitely not. But there's it was a big platform, so it was a stage. So if a band wanted to play, or if when the during Sunday service, the kids would come up and we'd hear a morality tale or a interesting a kid friendly Bible story, and then he would ask questions. And then I remember being how do you know that really happened? And I was just I was an asshole when I was a kid. So it was basically a religious version of but why? Like,
Yeah, but
how do you
kids
know that
ask those
happened?
things,
I know.
and they need to be prepared for that, and
I
not
know.
just. And we could go, oh God, I could go down a whole nother rabbit hole about not being
But
allowed to question things. But anyway,
but I remember being asked to return to my seat. Like,
nice.
like, please leave.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah,
don't they were like it was really like so and again, props where it was due. He's just like, I don't think that this is, because I was being a little asshole and I was being inappropriate and disrespectful in church. So, but he was just like, I don't think that this is appropriate for you, and please return to your seat. And I remember being like, interesting. Instead of answering my questions,
or even if it's not an
Mhm,
appropriate time to answer that question because it's part of a church service that has to keep moving forward,
mhm,
give you some kind of a, hey, why don't we talk about that after church?
yes,
Instead of outright dismissing that you have a question. That's my
yeah,
issue. That
yeah,
is my issue. Like, don't dismiss that there is a question, but you
hmm
can address that this is not the right time to ask that question.
hmm like, I'll answer your question, but not right now. And you're being an asshole. Go sit down.
Right, right. Like, the polite thing to do at this time is to listen
Mhm,
to me speak, and we
mhm.
will deal with questions at a different time.
And honestly, that probably would have worked better than what went down.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, because he was
mhm,
honestly, I think that in general, our society has this idea that children are not actual fully formed human beings deserving of respect. And
mhm,
children are. That doesn't mean they don't need to be taught a lot of stuff. You're not born
mhm.
knowing everything, but he was being very disrespectful of you by simply dismissing the fact that you had a question. And I don't think that's okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, the question was, "But why?" So,
I know,
like,
but this is what
Fall in
kids
love and
do.
it is what kids
learn
do.
as an adult. It's so much more meaningful and real than it is when you're a child just doing it because this is what we do, and
Mm,
this is how we do it.
and
Okay,
I'm gonna
no,
disagree with that.
me too.
I think stuff is a lot more real when you're a kid because you're more likely to believe it literally. Like,
Yeah, there's that. And I think too that,
mhm,
yes, do our experiences and perceptions of things change over time? Yes, but it doesn't make it any less real as when you were younger or at a different
mhm,
point in your life. It just means that you had a different perspective.
yes.
No.
Mm.
So I mean, I'm on fire for Jesus. Like I don't plan on this dimming out. Like the more and more I learn, the more and more excited I get about things, and the more at ease I am about what's happening in this world and what's happening, like in my marriage or
Yeah.
in all of
So,
it. So I do.
so this just hit me.
Mhm,
So someone, now I'm going to totally generalize here. Someone like her who's coming from this background of probably anxiety, of addiction, which a lot of times people who have addictions have mental health issues that had not been properly treated, if they had been treated at all, right? So
yeah,
having a very high control, strict religion that says it has all the answers probably is very comforting, because then
yeah,
you don't have to think for yourself, and you don't have to have experience the anxiety of, but what if I'm wrong?
mm. That, I can see where that could be helpful and, comforting. Yeah, I could see that. And again, if this works for her,
Yeah.
fantastic. You know,
I want to go back though to like the occult stuff because
Sure.
here we go.
I don't even want to say occult stuff, but like just like the tarot cards and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Like not to diss any of my friends because I have a lot of friends that are into that stuff and I love them so much.
Not to diss them, but here's the part where I diss
Yeah.
them.
Anytime
know,
there's a not to
Mhm,
insert, but yeah, you're about
mhm,
to. So
I have actually more empathy and understanding than I think an average person because I've been there. But I will say that my husband and I, we look at the Rolodex of friends that we have, and the ones that are dictating their life through that, and they're making life decisions through tarot or through, some of the witchcraft stuff, like even the meditation stuff, or like, and I'm gonna definitely offend a lot of people, but like the ayahuasca trips or the meditation camps and silent retreats, all the things that
Yeah.
I used to do, except I never did ayahuasca, but like they're also miserable.
Yeah.
And like they're the most broke people. Usually most of them are single. They don't have stability, and I'm talking about like both financial and like the love around them.
Right.
There's always this
Okay,
drama
okay.
and dread.
So let's address the tarot. What is different between shuffling your tarot deck and asking for answers and randomly opening your Bible and asking for an answer? There's no difference. They're both forms of divination. And as to the marriage and relationship thing, so many people are miserable in their marriages in her religion, and they just hide it because they're not allowed to leave. They're told to over and over again, forgive this person, even for beating the ever-loving shit out of them and landing them in the hospital. They're supposed to forgive them for that and not leave them. So no, it's not. People outside the religion are broken, and people inside the religion are not. The people inside the religion are hiding it for fear of judgment, and because they have been so taught and internalized so deeply this message that marriage is so sacred and you can't leave it.
I mean, it's just, this is all like, I mean, to be fair, I have seen people that do live their lives by tarot in a really unhealthy way. It's, it's reading after reading after reading after reading, but it's usually because they're looking for the cards to give them the answer they want. Not, there's a difference between using the cards to give yourself a little bit of insight into the energy behind what's going on, so you can make an informed choice, or even to help yourself think out of, like, a lot of people use tarot as a there's a term for it, like when you, like, it's outside of the box thinking. It's a cognitive, it's cognitive something, like where you it's like, oh, do you need to solve this problem about computers? Let's think about nail glue, like fingernail glue or manicures, like, so it helps, like, kind of break some of the thought patterns in your brain around something that you've got, so you can have a fresh take, like, right? So that's what a lot of people are using tarot for. And like, that's not living your life by the cards. That's using a tool to help you make better decisions for yourself. That's empowerment, and there's nothing wrong with that. Unless it's truly unhealthy. But, like, a lot of these people are, like, to say that they are, correlation is not causation, right? So to say that these people are having a rough go of their life, well, first of all, she's like sitting in a very privileged position, judging people who are, like, you're very lucky, like, you're Kat Von D in LA, and you're tattooing people, and you have a lot of money, you have a really nice house, you live in a really nice neighborhood, and you have what we think, like, what has been presented to us as a healthy family. Like, you're very lucky, like, that's a very privileged position. So she's sitting from on high, judging people who might not be in that same position, and she's judging how they're choosing to cope, or how they're choosing not even to cope, but how to heal. Like, just because, like, to say that these people are broken because they're using these tools is I mean, like, I'm going to go ahead and say it's probably backward. They're probably turning to these tools because they're looking to start some sort of healing or spiritual journey, and their life circumstances have led them to start seeking. Like, that's, nobody just, I did, but nobody just picks up, like, when you're kids you do it, but, like, as an adult, you don't pick up a tarot card deck for funsies. Especially if you're trying to, like, if you're going through some stuff, like, you're starting a healing journey. And it's, when you do an ayahuasca retreat, like, that's ancient plant medicine putting you in touch with higher ascended dimensions. Like, that's, like, unless you're going to a drug dealer and you're doing it recreationally, like most of those retreats, if you do your research, they're going to lay the groundwork for a spiritual experience for you that's going to be incredibly cathartic and healing.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of research that has been done that shows correlation between psychedelics and the healing of trauma, PTSD, mental illness, addiction, whatnot. So
Yeah, and she's dismissing that people
Mhm.
come to any religion, including her own, because they are seeking something and they
Yes.
are broken. And many Christian leaders will acknowledge that, yeah, people come here because they're broken and they want help and they want healing. And so they say, well, for us, Jesus is the answer. So, it doesn't mean that, yeah.
And doom and gloom. And I was one of them, And it's like, that's one thing that I would look around at my Christian friends and I'm like, they're not perfect by any means.
Yeah.
But I want what you have, Like I love
They have toxic
the
positivity
light that you have. And it's like, so we're like, let's not be dummies anymore and let's just like figure out what this obviously hasn't worked for us, let's like explore this. And so that's kind of like my whole perspective on it.
I think by all means explore something new.
Again, like I have no intentions of cutting off my friends that I don't necessarily agree with or
but you will.
Don't see things the same way. I don't think Jesus would either. And so,
ultimately she will.
If she means that, that's a truly healthy take. Like there's that's a huge problem in our society is like,
and clearly I'm a skeptic.
Yeah, I who knows eventually, like even like spirituality, like what we're doing is guilty of it. It's like you're going to shed the people that are no longer in alignment with you, and I've always thought that is kind of an unhealthy take.
So this is where any system, you need to find that balance of, and I threw out toxic positivity because so much of Christianity is count it all joy and dismissing that, not everything is joyful. Now, does that mean that we wallow in the negativity? No, but it doesn't mean we dismiss the fact that, my close friend just died and that sucks and I'm sad and I'm going to be sad about it for a while. Like you should be allowed to do that and you're not. You're supposed to rejoice in the Lord. And we do, and on our end, we do the same thing sometimes. And that we're like, oh, we'll seek out the positivity and shed the negativity. And it's like, no, we need it all. We need to experience all of it.
We do.
So it's like, because I got a lot of criticism after I posted that baptism video, and I think that
which is a shame.
Like Christians,
stuck poop can make thin women feel plus sized. To have the best poop of your life, you don't need fiber.
We need the best of our lives.
When you
stuck poop. If you're a thin woman and you have stuck poop, you're gonna feel fat.
Yep.
How about you're just not gonna feel good because your poop is stuck because you're constipated. And and I honestly, we should have explored that commercial.
I
mean, and I'm a little sad that we didn't.
I know.
Next time.
So next time let's talk about how we could deal with constipation. Okay.
Yeah, the computer has hurt us, and I'm sure for the next 3 weeks I will be getting ads for stuck poop.
Oh my God, you guys! I am on my
kid's
computer. I wonder what kind of ads she's gonna get. Anyway,
stuck poop.
It's how much harm you're doing. Like I would look at a lot of the comments that I got, and they were really cruel and very, very annoyingly holier than thou. And I would look at some of them and say, okay, let's look at like what is to be gained from this comment. Like who does it help? Like to be a know-it-all. Like who does it help? Does it help me? Does it help all my other followers following and like witnessing the judgment and the criticism and and definitely of not knowing the other person, you know, like everyone's like, oh, well, she's a baby Christian, so, you know, you should cut her some slack. It's like, I'm not a baby Christian. I mean, I just recently got baptized, but like, I'm not like, this didn't happen yesterday. Like, I have an understanding of a lot of the things that people are talking about. Like, I'm not going to dress like how you think I'm going to dress. Like, nothing's changing in that department. Like, even like with like the you know, the music that I make, or some of the content that I make, it's like, it's not for you, you know, it's not for you. Have no idea how many DMs that I got from like other goth kids that are in the same boat as I was. They're going, man,
Goth Christianity is a rabbit hole, and we will go down it someday.
Oh,
but
we
not
need
today.
to.
and I'm at this crossroad and I want to go back to church, but like, I don't have a church to go to, or I feel like even within my own family unit, people have like.
So if you're a goth kid and you want to go back to church, Universal Unitarianism is for you.
Yeah.
It's a good reintroduction. So what I would caution is that there are, you know, I love how open the Universal Unitarian churches are to other beliefs and hosting that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it is still a Christian church. And, you know, like they don't embrace other faith. They tolerate it in hopes of eventually getting you. So it's, you know, you know, like that doesn't always and then they also it's, I'm trying to think of the right word. Like it's not so much appropriation, but they incorporate other spiritual practices and they wash them of their cultural context and turn it into something that is specific for their and you know, like again, everybody's guilty of doing this, especially if you have an eclectic practice. And you know, I don't think it's anything that you have to necessarily feel sorry for. But like Reiki in that's hosted by churches, you know, is pretty much just dismissed of its Japanese cultural heritage. And it's like it's Shinto practice. Like it should kind of, it should be taught like it's, and instead it's turned into like the healing of Christ consciousness, and archangels are inserted into it, and like all that, like, and light working, don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic tool, but to completely, like, you know, credit is still usually given to Dr. Usui, but it's now it is kind of devoid of its ancestral and cultural significance.
Right. So at what point do we just rename it because it's no longer, for example, so you used the Reiki example. So when do we stop calling it Reiki and start calling it healing, just at the very most basic part of it, or, you know, give it a different name because you've changed how you're doing it? Does it make it less effective? I don't know. I've never been in there, but
no. Well, I don't think it makes it less effective.
It probably doesn't. But rename it, because Reiki is, you're right, it's a Japanese modality. It comes from a place, and let's not forget it.
Yeah. And it's just, again, you know, it's I mean, I love how Reiki has become so culturally intertwined with a bunch of different practices, but you know, you always want to pay homage to the origin from whence it came, and you want to have a little bit of understanding of a practice in situ of its original culture. Like that's, you know, that's just respectful. Like you just want to respect it. And you know, it helps bring some understanding, like having the kanji and the katakana in like the Honsho Shonen, like the different characters and what those, like those letters not only serve, like that lettering not only serves as you know, letters, but they're also sigils in their own right. They're not hieroglyphic, but they are pictorial in a way.
Yes.
Like that's how that kind of started. And it's it's just like, it's mind blowing to me that, you know, like Hanshouze Shonen is taught, but it's not like here's the meaning of each character and its original, like this is why the characters were chosen. This isn't just Japanese for Hanshouze Shonen. Like that's
yeah. Well, and I think this is why I'm hesitant to call the healing that I do Reiki, because I don't use those things. I've taken it down my own path, and is it any less effective? No, but it's no longer where I started.
Yes. And that's fine. And
right.
That's 100% fine. But, that's a lot of that is true of like the Universal Unitarian Church.
Yeah.
Like they have like full moon meditations, but they're dedicated to Jesus. And it's just like, this is about food. Like this is about moon cycles for women. And like you're trying to apply a patriarchal like bent to it at the very, very end. And it's just it's just, I don't know, like the something about the UU never really sat right. But they are incredibly open and accepting when you're talking about like a Christian, like a structural Christian church. Like, so if you they most of the people that are attending don't recognize what's happening, like as far as church indoctrination is going, and they're not falling for it. They're just,
and there are just some churches that are very relaxed with their dress. The last church that I attended, the leader of the praise band was actually a very well-known person in the world of rock and roll, and his wife is a goth kid. Like she would come in dressed exactly like I could see her dressed exactly like Kat Von D is in here. So there are congregations that will, in fact, let you walk in looking however you want and not pressure you to look any different.
Yeah. So, if you are a goth kid and you're looking to explore spirituality, like it's just, putting out feelers into the different churches in your area. Like, don't be afraid to do that. Like, don't let how you dress or how you feel you may be perceived by members of a congregation stop you from exploring. Like, at the end of the day, your faith and your spirituality is yours to explore.
Yeah.
And you can show up to any church in like full Alice Cooper. Like, it doesn't matter. Like,
yes,
they're going to be happy to have you for the most part. If they're good, if they're a good congregation.
I'm an outcast and I'm trying to make my way back to Jesus, but like these people, thank you for doing that, and it's like, so I don't have any intention on like conforming to what somebody's like uniform or what their idea of darkness is, because I don't think I'm a dark person. I wear dark clothes, but like I like people's definition of darkness is a lot different, like what's dark to you might not be to me. Like I'm not scared of death. Like I talk about it all the time. My entire career was based on that. I tattooed portraits of dead people on their loved ones for decades. And like, so I've read every grieving book. I've read every bereavement book. I've read I think death is something that like we should be able to talk about. And, when I see a skull, I don't think like, oh, that's demonic. It's just not for me. But if it triggers you spiritually, then keep scrolling, or don't listen to my music or whatever it is. But I think that like the amount of like critical Christians on my Instagram now have become such a turnoff to people who are actually seeking God that like I had to just block and delete. Like even if it's good stuff, I just like if people talk about, this is not for you, and it's like you end up pushing people away. And like the one person that I think about through all this is my husband, because when we got together, we were both not Christian, we got married, and then he's really helped me without knowing find my way. And he's not necessarily on the same page. I mean, in some ways he is, he's very supportive. We go to church together, every Sunday. He always supports me. We pray together. But there's parts of him that's still questioning. And like after that, getting so much grief from people that spilled over into my husband, he was like, I remember the next morning, he was like, babe, I don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And it like.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him for not wanting to be a part of that. Like this is like the one thing that is just, you know, in any spiritual system, when you have people that are so dogmatic, you chase people away from like having a spiritual journey. You turn them off to a spiritual journey. Or like, you know, if truly your goal is to usher people down your spiritual path, down a particular spiritual path, like the last thing you should be doing is shit talking to them. Like,
Yes.
like, come on, you guys, it's marketing 101. Like, if you don't buy my product, you're a piece of shit. Like,
Right.
that's not how you get people to do it.
No.
Like, you're gonna get some people, but they're gonna not be with you for healthy or good reasons, and they're not going to like.
Yeah, I agree. And it comes back to the internet being a hotbed for people to say things without thinking. Or they've really thought it through, and that's what they decided to say. And
that's truly scary and terrifying. So, can you imagine?
Good for Kat for being so on top of moderating her comments. Like, I'd give up.
Yeah. Props where they're due. I mean, but like good for her, and good for her husband for still being questioning. And, I hope that she allows him to draw his own conclusions, what he wants to do, how he feels like he wants to practice. But, I'm surprisingly giving her like a handful of props today.
Yeah.
I went into this fully expecting to shit talk a bunch, and
I did too.
But good for her for holding on to her identity, recognizing who she is as a person, holding on to some of her larger beliefs, like this whole thing, like death should be something we should be able to talk about as a society.
Absolutely.
She's not wrong. So good for her for sticking to her guns for the things that she wants to stick to her guns for, that wouldn't necessarily be considered okay subjects, especially for women in a Christian system of belief. So good for her. Props for her. So it is 10:54 and I have to go open the store. So we're gonna call it a day here for now. Good. We're about halfway through. Maybe we will pick this up for the next episode of Salty Witch Podcast. But for now, thank you everybody for joining us. Megan, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Anybody who watched this, you hung out with us for 1.5 hours. We love you. Thank you. And stay salty, witches.